Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Mafia and Gangsters video. It looks like there has been a pretty positive reception to my past two videos, so I thought I would create another one here for your viewing pleasure. I'll just do these out of the blue for now, not really dedicate like let's say a continued set of videos all in one place, just picking random stuff. And again, the main theme is the lower unrecognized type figures. None of the all-stars, but more the ones that you and I have never heard of. Such was the case with this character. This guy, while he was someone that is probably nobody here in America would just pick out of the blue as far as the name of a mafia member, and looking at his information, he was still someone that was pretty powerful in the sense that he wasn't towards the top, but he was pretty close up there, and it had to do with him also being within a pretty powerful family as well. So in terms of this guy, he's just someone that was making the wheels turn within the family, and making some pretty important decisions, and yet you and I have never heard of him. It has to do with this gentleman. His name is Michael, and then of course, like most other mafia members, he has a nickname, in this case Big Mike, and then Miranda. So full name Michael Miranda, but goes by the name Big Mike, who I'll talk in reference for the rest of the video here as Big Mike. So let's go ahead and present all the information associated with this guy. So who was Big Mike? So he was someone that was born in Italy, in this case Naples, Italy, back in the late 1800s, 1896 to be exact. And like most other mafia members back then, they all started from there but immigrated to the United States, settling in New York. In his case, it was in 1905. And right from the get-go, as a teenager, he was someone that decided that a life of crime was going to be his avenue. In this case, his very first arrest, even as a teenager, was for theft and assault back in 1915. Now, how he was introduced to the mafia happened to be within its heyday, the Prohibition era. That was the time period where the mafia reigned king because of the way they could supply all that quote unquote illegal alcohol. And in his case, he started with a family called the Reina crime family, and with them he was able to basically do the usual activities associated with the mafia: racketeering, hits, stealing, all that stuff. There was a big war though in 1931 that changed things with regards to his career. In this case, it was the mafia war known as the Castellammarise War, and there he was introduced to someone who would make his career going forward. This guy, a guy by the name of Vito Genovese, who is an all-star within the mafia world. Like, he is one of the top, someone that was the eventual main member of his own family. Well, he brought this guy, this Big Mike, on board, made him a made man, which in that case is an established permanent mafia member, and then that's where this guy Big Mike's career took a whole other turn. Eventually, for the next decade or so, he just kept rising through the family ranks. In that case, it was the Luciano crime family, and then during the 40s, he became an overseer of Manhattan's Garment District, that fashion area there located in Manhattan. Of course, in his case, he had nothing to do with fashion, but most likely involving the stealing of all those clothing, of the shops, of the products, and then I guess just fencing them throughout various parts of New York. But he was doing a pretty good job because during that time period, he then elevated to what's considered a capo, which is yet another top ranking within the family, and everyone started respecting him and then fearing him for what he could do. Eventually, his interest turned into something else, more the traditional mafia activities. He was quite dedicated and professional to the world of illegal gambling, loan sharking, and then racketeering, labor racketeering to be exact. All throughout that time, that connection that he made with Vito Genovese helped him out more and more, because while this guy Genovese was also going up through the ranks, so was he in turn. As that saying goes, it's not about what you do, it's more about who you know. And in this case, having that affiliation with Genovese helped him out, and then vice versa. Finally, things took another big turn in his life, and that had to do with the fact that there was a major shakeup within the family. Eventually, with the attempted assassination of the top boss within the Luciano crime family, that guy, Frank Costello, he ended up leaving, and that in turn made Vito Genovese, again, the main mentor of Big Mike, now he was in control of the family. And lo and behold, what did he do? When that happened, he made, in this case, Big Mike his consigliere. If you ever heard of that term in the mafia world, it is one of the highest ranking positions, pretty much number 3 within any family, because there's always the big boss, then there's the underboss, and then traditionally there's the consigliere. The consigliere is someone who is a respected position within the family. And I'm saying all this not like as, let's say, envious or something, as like respecting them. No, I'm just saying it as a matter of fact. Still, I mean, by all means, everyone there was 100% doing very bad things and making a career out of crime. So all this respect and the words respect being thrown around is just between them, not in the sense that I'm doing some respect towards them. But in this case, with his position being the consigliere, he had a very high ranking. Everyone would look to him for advice. Everyone would look to him for counseling. He would provide that for the family members, either those above him and then those underneath him too. Still though, even with that position, he was involved in some skirmishes with federal agents, including the infamous Appalachian Conference that occurred in 1957. That was that conference where out of the blue, a bunch of family members all started to get together from different families, I guess, to try to hold a big meeting to try to sort things out. And just out of pure happen chance, there was a police officer who happened to see this, and then they brought a bunch of other federal agents as quickly as possible, and it was a big skirmish. Like, everybody started running out. He was caught though within that skirmish, and him and then Genovese and then others were arrested, but of course there was hardly anything to sentence these guys. So in his case, Big Mike, he was able to eventually get out pretty clearly. On another instance, he was also arrested, I believe it was in 1965, because he was quote unquote consorting with known criminals. But still, he was very smart in the sense that he was not having any of his activities, even though he's been doing at that point decades of illegal activities. Again, we're talking about gambling, loan sharking, racketeering, stealing, assault, mob sanctioned hits. The smart ones were the ones like him who made sure that nothing could be tied to them, at least when it came to courts. Nothing that could say in the world of courts, that activity is tied to him 100%. Here's the evidence. Now let's find them guilty. Nope. There was always that buffer, so that way they could not be arrested permanently or sent to jail permanently. And lo and behold, he was someone that was very successful with that. I always find that amazing too. I mean, when you see someone that is in that world, maybe not the direct link, but still they're involved in that world 100%. How could there not be that evidence to directly tie them? Who knows? But in his case, Big Mike, he figured it out, and he was able to be released within one single week. There was finally one other instance where he was arrested yet again. It was the following year, 1966, in a restaurant, no less. Him and 12 other high-level mafia members ended up being arrested. But yet again, the most closest thing that they could charge him was consorting with known criminals. He was out within just a couple of days, it seems. He even had put up $100,000 bail to be able to get out. So, I mean, that's how much money he had at that point. $100,000, 1966 is the year. That's a lot of money back then. And then, yeah, he was just using that money freely and being able to get out. Now, as far as the whereabouts of him afterward, it seems like about 5 or 6 years later, he decided that that was it. He was quitting the family in the sense that he was just going to be retiring, or the closest thing to retiring from the family. I always thought that it was for life. Like, you couldn't necessarily decide one day, you know what, it's not for me, I'm getting out of here. I always thought that, especially when you were a capo or a made man, that you went through that whole ceremony and it was for life. But no, in this case, he was able to retire. He was allowed to retire, and he just basically lived out in Boca Raton, Florida, if you could believe it. Imagine if someone lived there in 1972, 1973, somewhere around there, and you happen to run into him. You have no idea that he was someone involved in decades' work of some of the hardest mafia activity. But there he was, just living out his life there in Boca Raton, Florida, and he ended up dying sometime late in 1973, just of natural causes. So, for all intents and purposes, he was someone that had a long-lasting life in the mafia world, never went to jail permanently for it, and then was able to get out of it peacefully without anything bad happening to him. Quite rare when it comes to the mafia world. But that's it. That's all the information associated with Michael Big Mike Miranda. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to probably do again a couple more of these just out of the blue. And then I'll think about maybe doing an official series of entries sometime soon as well. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.